All right. So, Skeleton Crew episode 4. And this was a very enlightening episode. I mean, the plot was just they landed on somehow the wrong planet. So, Kim got them to the correct star system, but not to the correct planet. Now, I don't know if it's because Aten had become a myth, if she just couldn't get exact coordinates because of that, or if there was something more nefarious going on. But it turns out that Jodnan Narwood, even though he is a scoundrel, they're making him more of a Han Solo character. You know, the scoundrel with a heart of gold. This idea that, yes, he's a scoundrel. Yes, he will do whatever it takes to get ahead. But he isn't going to sell a bunch of kids up the river. Even though he isn't being truthful with them, I'm still unsure how truthful he's being. We are under the impression that he wants the treasure, whatever the treasure of At-Aten is, or whatever he thinks the treasure of At-Aten is. But what if he's a former Jedi Padawan who comes from At-Aten? Because Jedi Padawans might forget their families because they're taken so young. But maybe he remembers where he's from. I mean, Anakin was older when he was taken, so it's possible he remembers something of what planet he's from, some of his childhood. Actually, I think even Obi-Wan remembers some stuff. So, maybe Jodnan Narwood is also from At-Aten, and he's just thrilled to bits. But he has to put on this act because he needs to survive in the Outer Rim amongst pirates. Now, he wears Jedi, or at least he did wear Jedi robes when we first meet him. So, maybe, like I said, he was a Jedi Padawan. He never completed training. I mean, Order 66 had already happened. So, maybe that's why he didn't complete his training. Or there was another reason he never completed his training. But for whatever the reason, he's not the dirtbag that we were initially led to believe. We had this idea that he was going to lead the kids astray, that he might actually turn on them because of probably because of what Kim said. This idea of these kids must have been kidnapped by him, because why else would they willingly be with him? So it was easy to think that there was going to be some sort of catch and he was going to turn on them. And I guess it's still possible he might turn on them, but this episode goes a long way to show that that's not what he's interested in doing. At the beginning, while the kids are off exploring this planet, which at first they thought was At-Aten, but it's just similar to At-Aten. I thought it was going to be some sort of time traveling episode, that they were in either a past of At-Aten or the future. But it turns out that they're not quite on the right planet. Maybe, like Fern suggested, it's a planet that was one of the jewels, like at Aten, and they were destroyed. And so now they're living a primitive, basically gang war existence. So we learn a lot about the character of Jadnon Norwood because he uses the money, which you think at first he's just going to out and out steal, and he actually uses it to buy the animals that actually belong to the Troiks and gives them back to them. Sort of what a twist on what Neil suggested that they do. Like, I don't know what this fight is about, but, just say I'm sorry and, move on. Which is a very, very sweet and very naive way of looking at conflict, because some conflict is just way too complicated for just, oops, my bad. Just, unfortunately, not all conflict works that way, but it's so sweet that he sees the world that way. And the other kids are willing to play soldier until the Troy captain kind of sort of turned on them. He's trying to... you knew that he was suspect. Even his daughter was like, what the hell, dude? But he wanted to turn them into child soldiers. He even wanted them to lead the company, which I get the feeling he wanted to use them as cannon fodder. It didn't work, but he wanted to use them as cannon fodder. And the only thing that Jadnon Norwood wanted in exchange for bringing all their animals back was to, get the kids back. And he explained how he found out about this whole, where they were and what was going on. Now, I guess because Wim was not shy about looking through the window at what was going on, but these guys knew knew that these kids were with their mortal enemies. And Jadnon Norwood figured out that, he could make a deal. So Neil is out all his lunch money, but oh well. Like Jod mentioned, this saved them. So so they go to look for the coordinates, and the entire time the android is just saying the same thing pretty much over and over about how he's never heard of At Aten. And Fern finally breaks and figures out that droids do what they're told. So she tries to override whatever the previous captain told him to get him to tell them what happened. He destroyed the coordinates because his former captain didn't want them to find whatever treasure it is on At Aten. Despite the fact that these kids have said many times that they are from At Aten. They aren't looking for any treasure. They are literally from At Aten. And I don't know if the droid has forgotten that at this point because his memory is really jumbled. And so he decides that he is going to rip them limb from limb. And Neil, sweet Neil, the kid who gave his dinner to these two kids who looked like they were hungry. Who seemed to have developed a crush on what's her name? Hanya? And he stood up to defend his friends against SM-33. And the only thing about this whole interaction I didn't like was the way she treated Wim. You know, Wim was trying to build her up, say, you're doing a good job, so, you can do this, you can do that. And because she's upset, because she's finally had a breakdown, she didn't take it that way. So I felt sorry for Wim because he was actually trying to build her up and tell her that she's doing a good job and that she's, can continue to do a great job. That, okay, you're having a moment now, but you can bounce back. And that's when she had a revelation about the droid. So Neil manages to save them and then promptly faints. That reminds me of those old movies where the damsel in distress is trying to hold back a pack of wolves with a stick. And then when she's saved, then she faints. Once the danger is over. So that was great to see that Neil rose up and became a hero, because that was very brave. And Jadna Norwood used that opportunity of Neil distracting the droid to use the off switch, which was great since whatever weapon he attempted to use didn't work. Now the question becomes, what are they going to do with Smee? Because they turned him off because Smee wanted to kill the kids. He went from Captain, my captain, to kill everybody. So, yeah. So I don't know if that's the last we saw of Smee, of SM-33, or if he's going to be reprogrammed. Because KB looked like she was getting ready to work on his circuits. So it's entirely possible that she might reprogram him in such a way that he remembers AT-ATN, but also remembers that they're kids who are from AT-ATN and they're just lost and want to get back home, as opposed to they are after the treasure of AT-ATN, so we will kill them. But that explains why they were buried on AT-ATN. This was probably shortly after they destroyed the coordinates on this planet, because they wanted whatever the treasure was. Now, what took them down, how did they go down and what took them down is still a mystery. But at least now we know how he came to be, well, sort of, on AT-ATN. The fact that they were after whatever the treasure was, and I guess they attacked, or I don't know if they just flew through the barrier on a wing and a prayer, or whether something else happened and they just happened to crash on AT-ATN. So it'll be interesting to see who the captain was, And what exactly did they think the treasure was? So there's a lot to so instead of Jod being the bad guy, it turns out that SM-33 was a sleeper agent. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention about this episode. Jodnar Norwood is kind of the comedic relief. Neil was at first, but now it's him. Like, when he notices all these warriors and says, just shoot me. And probably because he was, just so frustrated, so exasperated over the situations that these kids put him in. So now they have to figure out how to get to At-At. Now, I don't remember how many episodes there are, so I don't know if there's 2 left. I think there's 2 left. I think there's 6 episodes. So they've got to be getting close. They're obviously in the right star system. So I don't know if they're going to go to one of the other planets and try to find directions from there. Or they're just going, I don't know if the jewels of the Old Republic are in the general vicinity of one another. Like I said, the same star system. So maybe it would be easier to figure out where At-Aten is. But I'm not positive, but I think there's only 6 episodes. And if that's true, let me look that up. How many episodes of Skeleton Crew? Let's see. Okay, so there's 8 episodes. So they still have quite a few episodes to try to figure out where At-Aten is. Like I said, I was starting to think that this was a time travel thing, whether they traveled to the future or to the past, because hyperspace travel. So I was kind of bummed that it turned out that it really was a different planet. But, so they have 4 episodes to get home. So they found the coordinates to 3 other planets. So I'm guessing that they're going to go from planet to planet to try to find out where At-Aten is. And they probably won't figure out either the planet doesn't have the coordinates or it's again somebody destroyed the coordinates. Because who knows, maybe these pirates went from planet to planet destroying the coordinates of At-Aten. And that it won't be till the last planet where they are finally able to get the correct coordinates home. And that the last episode will be them getting home, possibly Jodnar Norwood turning on them. Because he is indeed, after all this, after the treasure. Again, it could be that that's not the twist. The twist is that they're going to discover what the great work is. And they're going to discover that the great work isn't that great. And maybe they'll turn on the supervisor. We didn't see any of the adults this episode. I wonder if we're going to see more of the adults trying to figure out on their own where the kids are and how to get them back, or whether Fern's mom got an audience with the supervisor, or if this is going to get them wondering what the hell's going on. Because the great work sounds very iffy. Doesn't sound like it's on above board. So, I believe that is all I have for this episode. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.